It's a big one. He's taking it. Oh, yes! Look at this donkey.
Hi everyone, you're watching In Deep on the Delta, and this is the weekly Delta fishing report for the week of September 8th. And I'd like to start off by thanking Wayne for that great action video that we had to start off the report. If you want to check out that full video, check out Wayne's YouTube channel. It's Wayne Montano Fishing, and he's got a lot of local content, especially for you kayak guys out there. I think you might enjoy his channel, so check out Wayne over at Wayne Montano Fishing. With that, boy, it was a really good week for big fish last week. I don't know what happened. There is a definite pattern that's going off here, and there's a definite trend. We're going to get to those. I want to start off with a few catches, and congratulations to the folks who did. Not only a lot of folks that get big fish, but they got their PB. So let's check out some of this week's better catches. As you can see, a lot of big fish coming in this week, and I'm going to start off with water conditions really quick. We're gonna put stripers on the back burner. Water temperatures out here are right around 80 degrees, and we've got about maybe 5 to 8 feet of visibility in most places. Don't worry about the high water temperatures. It's not going to affect the bass physically. It may affect the bass how much they're moving and how much they're feeding, but don't worry about the bass's health because we're having some fairly high water temperatures. So I'm going to start right off with the pattern. Everyone that seemed to have good fishing out here in the last week talked about being out early. Yeah, that's no surprise. Get out early, and by about 9 or 10 o'clock, the major portion of that bite is going to be over. The bait that was most prevalent on almost everybody's list, if it was not the primary bait, it was I'll call it a secondary bait that added to their catch. But most of the people that did really well were fishing frogs. Early morning, there was fish caught on poppers and buzz baits, and things that are off, that were away from vegetation. But the pattern was getting out early, throwing frogs. After about 9 or 10 a.m., you really want to get, put the punch rod on and start punching vegetation. So the secondary pattern here would be punching. But those two obviously were punching and frogging in the same area, so the fish are really relating to surface vegetation. You really need to find that shade. Everyone was also talking about if you have an area with good surface vegetation, a little water movement, that is a big plus. With this warm water, a little water movement, I think, helps to keep the fish a little more active. Now, another tip that I'll give you is several people talked about fishing cheese duckweed. That's we'll just call it these cheese mats. I can guarantee you this: if you guys are running around out here, you're looking for a place to punch or frog, and you're seeing a bunch of hyacinth and you've got a cheese mat or some duckweed on there, make sure you fish the duckweed and the cheese. Lots of reports where big fish are blowing up out of the cheese. So those are two real important factors. Punching, if you want to stay out here when it's 110, 115 degrees, punching, is the thing to do. People are still getting smaller fish on drop shot and worms, and a few chatterbait fish. Chatterbait just hasn't come into play. Talk about Rob Cloutier from the Bass Hole. Rob has been out quite a bit, and I want to put up a picture of Rob's partner. I didn't get Rob's partner's name, so we'll just call him Rob's 10-pound partner. But Rob took his buddy out throwing frogs, and he picked up a 10-pound plus bass. Obviously, again, throwing a frog, keeping it in heavy cover. When they got done with their frog bite, Rob's report just, you know, coincided with what everybody else said. They started punching, and they had good luck throughout the day. And a lot of folks that are braving the warm weather, that are punching throughout the day, are getting pretty consistent fishing. And I've had a couple guys say they've got 20 or 30 fish, and only a couple of them were under 2 pounds. Now, they didn't get any super toads on those particular days, but a lot of quality fish. So frogging and punching. And I want to get into something now that you guys may not be thinking about. Why all of a sudden the last 3 weeks everyone's been crying about, no, I keep saying crying, everybody's been complaining about, I'm getting a ton of fish, but I'm not getting the big ones. This week it seemed like everybody was catching big fish, and if you look at a lot of these fish, they're in all stages of, I'll say, post-spawn. Some of them have been done spawning. They've got those big guts. They look great. If you checked out the tails on a couple of these fish, they had tails that weren't freshly worn, but you could tell they were still rounded off, and they were still, you know, mending back. You know, they weren't a full tail. So some of these fish spawned 2 months ago. Some of them spawned at our last full moon. And I think what is happening, we have finally, this last full moon in August, we had the last final big surge of fish spawning. All of those fish right now are pretty much post-spawn, and they've gotten back to the feeding frenzy that they should be on. Now, some of the fish that have big guts, they've been feeding for a while, and those fish have been trickling in. The thin fish that are still 6-7 pounds, should be 8 or 9 pounds. Those fish are fish that spawn later, and they're just getting back to where they're hungry and they're feeling like going out and chasing bait. The other thing that is aiding in catching these big fish is there are fewer and fewer fry garters out. Now, the last 2 or 3 weeks, you've heard me talk a lot about fry, big balls of fry in the water. That means that those are the fry coming from either the spawn in August or the month before. So those fish, once those fish come on a bed, it takes about 3 to 5 days for the eggs to hatch. Once they hatch, the fry stay in these big balls for about 2 weeks. While they are in these big fry balls, that's when you have the small males being really protective and really aggressive. What's happened in the last week? Now, this is key. All of those fry balls are starting to disperse. The smaller male bass are starting to, along with the balls of fry, they're starting to disperse too, because they're no longer needed to guard the fry. That's why we don't hear as many people going out and catch and saying, yeah, I got 50 fish, but only 2 of them were over 2 pounds, because all of those males are starting to disperse along into, you know, their normal areas. Why is this important? Because without catching 40 or 50 fish in a day, it gives you more time to soak your baits for the bigger fish. So what we should be seeing for the rest of the summer in through till we hit winter is a better blend of fish, a better quality fish, fewer smaller fish, more bigger fish in the mix. This next week coming up, we have a full moon. We have great tidal coefficients. We have a lot of heat. What does that mean? If I was going fishing, and I will be going fishing, I'm going to try to do a couple of all-nighters, I want to fish very early, very late, or after dark. The thing about the tides and the moon phases, they're not really coinciding with sunup and sundown. Most of your better moon phases are either midday or after dark, like around midnight. So if you have been thinking about doing some night fishing, you're comfortable with it, you feel safe, you know, I don't want to put you out there if you're not feeling safe. But if you're thinking about doing some night fishing, starting today through the weekend, this is when you want to fish, and you will see that right around midnight, Friday, Saturday, midnight to 2 o'clock. There is going to be a lot of salooner activity, and it's going to coincide with the right tide. This is when you want to be out here to catch some big fish. So let's see what happens next week. I thank you guys for tuning in, and boy, I don't know what else to say. This could be a really good week to fish. Hopefully this 110 degree weather is going to drop down into the 90s, and we'll be able to put in a little more time on the water. So thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Until next week, we'll see you guys on the water.